Hello, everyone. This is Greg, and it's episode 14 of Unbreakable Spirits. And it's our sports edition today. I usually do this on Sunday, but because tomorrow is Easter Sunday, and I'll be chopping down on jelly beans, I thought I'd do it today. So there's a lot to talk about. Let's get to it. Let's talk about the Phillies first of all. The Phillies had their home opener yesterday, and they won, and which is good. Phillies hit a lot of home runs, which is what they need to do. I mean, they were built around Citizens Bank Park to hit home runs, and they're gonna have to hit home runs to win. I mean, other than Trey Turner getting on base, hopefully stealing more bases, the team doesn't really play small ball. So they're going to have to hit home runs, which is their MO, to win games, especially until Bryce Harper comes back. Um, I We see how we miss Rhys Hoskins. It was a great touch by the Phillies to allow Rhys Hoskins and Bryce Harper to raise the National League Championship banner flag, and that was great. The Phillies always do a great job with things like that, ceremonies. So it was good to see Rhys Hoskins, and it was really noticeable in the dugout when he was watching the game, how some of the other players were going up to him and hugging him, and just it shows you how much he has missed. And he's missed in the lineup too. I mean, not only do you take his 30 runs out of the lineup, but you take just the threat of having Rhys Hoskins in the lineup. He affects other people in the lineup. He may be hitting third or fifth, and the person hitting before him or after him may see better pitches, especially if he's on a hot streak. Rhys Hoskins has always been very, very streaky. So when he's going good, he really affects the lineup. Yes, he has his defensive liabilities, but we see now how much the Phillies miss him in the lineup. It's going to be very interesting to see if they sign him after the season. You know, it's a shame for Hoskins because this was his final year, and he would have been going into free agency. And if he would have had a really good year, he would have been commanding a pretty big contract. But I'm afraid with the ACL injury, he's probably going to sign next year, if not with the Phillies, someone else on maybe a 1-year contract, so he could prove himself that he's healthy and he's productive. So it's going to be interesting. That will the Phillies resign him? Maybe it's for a year. You know, right now I don't know what other options they have. I mean, they have a lot of players who could play first base. Uh, you know, JT Realmuto could play first base. But then that takes away from your catching position. Unfortunately, the Phillies don't have a really, really good catcher who could play every day. So JT could slide the first base. Now they had one. They had a young catcher in Logan O'Hoppe, but they traded him to the Angels for Brandon Marsh. Now, you know, the Phillies needed a center fielder. And Marsh has done a good job. He's an okay hitter. He's getting better. He's an okay outfielder, probably a little bit above average center fielder, to be fair. But time will tell, because Logan O'Hoppe, I think, is going to be a star from what I've seen of him. He's already the starting catcher for the Angels, and he's making an impact for the Angels. So, you know, it's hard to find young, really good catchers in the major leagues. So when Dave Dombrowski made that trade over the winter, I was a little concerned, because even though we know that JT Realmuto it would be blocking Ohapi's way. And Ohapi probably wouldn't play for a few years. I thought, well, why not let Ohapi be the backup for a few years? And then when JT does retire or gets traded at the end of his contract, Ohapi's there. Or in this scenario, JT moves to first base. Ohapi plays catcher. So, looking back on it, there's plenty of time. If the Phillies are already 2-5, it's still really early. But I wasn't very impressed with Dave Dombrowski's off-season moves. And I'll tell you why. Dave Dombrowski is a great GM. And we know he's built championship teams elsewhere in baseball. And he's built a very good team with the Phillies. I mean, just think about where the Phillies were several years ago to where they are now. They're contenders. But I just think that Dombrowski didn't have the best of off seasons this off season. He traded away Matt Vierling, and I know Matt Vierlings are a dime dozen. You could find Matt Vierlings anywhere, extra outfielders. And Matt Vierling was a decent player for the Phillies, but he wasn't a star. So Dombrowski traded him away along with Nick Naton, who I liked. Nick Naton. He played hard all the time. He hustled. So he traded them to Detroit for Gregory Soto, who was a good relief pitcher for the Tigers. He made the All-Star team twice, but he has a tendency not to be able to throw strikes. And we've seen that so far this year for the Phillies. Now, maybe Soto is relearning his role. He used to be a closer for the Tigers, and the Phillies have plenty of closers in their bullpen right now, which is great compared to the bullpen they had just a year or two ago. So maybe Soto is getting used to his role as being more of a 6th, 7th inning guy, a setup guy. We'll see. But trading away Vierling and Naton certainly affected the bench and the depth of the Phillies. I mean, they were key contributors last year, if you remember, to the championship run. So I just thought that deal didn't need to be done. I also felt that the Ohapi trade was a little questionable too, as I said. Ohapi, I wasn't surprised if he was traded because, again, JT is blocking his route to being a starting catcher, and it's Dombrowski's MO to trade away young prospects to help win now, and that's what Dombrowski is doing in Philadelphia. He wants to win now, and I don't blame the Philadelphia management for wanting to win now. I mean, the fans have been so patient with this team, and up until last year, didn't see a playoff team for over 10 years. So I don't blame the Phillies for going all in to try to win now. I mean, Bryce Harper is in his prime, so is Realmuto, so was Rhys Hoskins. I don't blame them. I just thought if they ever traded Ohapi, they would get more than just a Marsh type of an outfielder. And again, nothing against Marsh, but I really thought trading Ohapi, a young catcher, your top position prospect in the organization, would have brought back more. I would have thought it would have brought back much more than just Marsh, who's basically an okay center fielder. So, but we'll see. Time will tell how well Dave Dombrowski did during the off season. Another move that I didn't like, and I hate to keep criticizing the Phillies because I like the Phillies, they're my favorite team, but letting go of Zach Eflin. Now, I always liked Zach Eflin. I thought he was very injury prone, back issues, knee issues. And that sort of held him back. But I liked Zach Eflin because he could throw strikes, he could be a starter, he could be a long man. And as we saw last year in the playoffs, he even closed uh, during the season, later in the season when the Phillies were looking for a closer in the bullpen. Um, to his credit, Zach Eflin got a big contract from Tampa Bay and left. And good for him. I don't blame him. But as we see, Zach Eflin is now 2-0 with the undefeated Tampa Bay Rays, and he's pitching really well for them. Yesterday, he had 7 strikeouts, I believe, in 6 innings. And he's a ground ball pitcher, so he's a perfect pitcher for Citizens Bank Park. He knew how to pitch in Citizens Bank Park. I wouldn't have given Zach Eflin the money he got from Tampa Bay, don't get me wrong, but I may have tried harder to keep Zach Eflin before he got on the free agent market. So maybe giving him more years, more money. I don't know what it would have taken, but all I know is that Zach Eflin would have looked really good in the rotation right now, even as number 3, number 4, number 5 starter. Just his versatility. And now we see the Phillies are, because of injuries, are lacking starters. I mean, Andrew Painter is down. We see that Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler are just okay starting the season. They may have pitched too many innings last year, but the season went to the World Series. What are you going to do? But they didn't have much downtime during the off season. And because of Ranger Suarez getting hurt, and Painter, I think the Phillies would have liked to ease both Nola and Wheeler into the season. But now they really need them to step up because of the injuries. So my point is that Zach Eflin would have helped the rotation. So, I mean, we miss Zach Eflin. Not that Zach Eflin saved Koufax, he was a great big pitcher. He was just a solid pitcher. He was solid. And I think the Phillies miss that right now. So Phillies are playing Cincinnati this afternoon at 4:00. Let's hope they take the last 2 games of the series. That would bring them back to 4-5 on the year. And they play Miami for 3 games at home. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then they go to Cincinnati next weekend. So the Phillies can get back in the National League East if they win a few games this week. I mean, Atlanta has started hot, and the Mets are just so, and Washington and Miami are what they are. So it's not going to take much for the Phillies to get back into the race. And let's not forget, Bryce Harper should be back sooner than later. A big injury was Derek Hall. Spraining his thumb, was living in his left thumb the other day. It sounds like he's going to be out of action for anywhere up to 2 months. And that's a shame for him because with Hoskins getting hurt, Paul finally had his shot to play first base every day. So that's a shame. And the Phillies are going to miss him because, again, he brought you power, and it affects the bench too. It's a trickle-down effect when someone gets hurt. So it's just another injury. The Phillies will probably move Alec Bohm to first base and play Sosa at third, which they're doing today, which is good, but Sosa's a good little player, solid player. But there was a reason why he didn't start for St. Louis, and the reason why he's not starting for the Phillies, other than the injuries. He's a good bench player, and he's a jack of all trades. He could play third, he could play short, he could probably, well, we've seen him in the outfield. The Phillies are trying to break him in the center field by the eruption out there. He's a good little player, but at a power position such as third base, even though he hit a home run yesterday, he's not going to give you the power. So really, the Phillies are in a bind right now, and this just goes back to the Phillies or farm system. The farm system is better than what it used to be. Don't get me wrong, much better than when Matt Flintock was running the show. But they still have work to do. They're not up to the level of Atlanta or Tampa Bay or St. Louis, who can just bring a player up if someone gets hurt and will fill in with no problem. The Phillies seem to be gone through the farm system. Their depth seems to be in pitching. So position players are, they still need to work on them as far as their scouting, their talent evaluation is concerned. There's still work to go. So now we see the importance of having a solid farm system. Not only does it save you from buying expensive free agents, but it also comes in handy when you have injuries. So it'll be interesting to see what the Phillies do for the rest of the season. Real Minto can play first. I suppose the coach Castellanos can. There's been talk of Schwarber playing first base. I guess Bryce Harper could even play first. But I know they don't want him using that right elbow. They don't want him throwing. I would be surprised if he plays anywhere in the field this year, be it right field or be it first base. They just don't want him to throw, and they don't want him to get on the base paths and slide and use that arm. And God forbid he hurts that elbow against sliding. So I think when Bryce Harper comes back, we're going to see him as the DH, and that's probably it until 2024. So we'll see what the Phillies do. The Sixers, they are coming to the end of their season. They have one more game left, and that's tomorrow in Brooklyn, a meaningless game to the Sixers. And they're locked into the number 3 seed, which means that they're going to play the Brooklyn Nets in the playoffs starting in a few weeks. The regular season will be ending this weekend, and then we have a week of the play-in tournament, and then the real playoffs begin. So I think the Sixers should have no problem with Brooklyn. I think they should sweep Brooklyn 4-0. Brooklyn doesn't have an answer for Joel Embiid. Few teams do, and I'm glad that it looks like Embiid is going to get the MVP. He definitely deserves it, especially over Jokic. The only player that I think would have a chance would be Giannis, because he's been playing great, and the Bucks are in first place in the East. But I think on both ends of the court, Joel Embiid deserves the MVP. So give it to him. I think that's going to have the opposite effect of last year, and that's going to motivate him even more in the playoffs. If you remember last year, when Embiid did not win the MVP, it seemed like he was in a little bit of a funk. and he let that affect his performance in the playoffs. And I don't think that'll be the case this year. I think he's going to win it, and I think he is going to be even more motivated this year. So my feeling is that they're going to sweep Brooklyn, and it's really great to see Mikal Bridges playing so well up in Brooklyn. Again, it's a shame the Sixers did not keep Bridges. They traded him away on draft day to Phoenix, and that was a big mistake, as we see now. But I think the Sixers should get by Brooklyn. Now, if they do, they're going to play Boston probably play Boston in the second round. The second round is the bugaboo for the Sixers. They haven't been able to get past the second round, and it's a big bugaboo for their coach. Could they beat Boston? Sure, they can. Boston is going to have the home court advantage, but let's face facts. In the playoffs, you're going to have to win on the road anyway. They could beat Boston. I mean, Boston hasn't shown that they have an answer for Embiid. I mean, look at the other night when Embiid went off on Boston and scored 52 points. Boston's game plan looks like they are going to let Embiid have his, not double team him, and make sure nobody else on the floor scores. For the Sixers to be successful in the playoffs, they need someone else to step up other than Embiid. I mean, I'm sure Embiid is going to get his 30 points, his 13 rebounds, or whatever every game. But for the Sixers to move on past Boston, they're going to need James Harden to play well. He's going to need to limit his turnovers and still be a distributor with his assists. They're going to need Tyrese Maxey to get out of his funk and start playing well again. They're going to need Tobias Harris to step up. And we've seen that Tobias Harris is one of the most inconsistent players in Philadelphia in any sport. I mean, when you think about the money that they're paying Tobias Harris, the max contract, and he is just so inconsistent. He would go from 5 points one game to 20 points another game. And who knows why? I mean, there's certainly times when they feed Harris the ball, trying to get him going early in the game, and he just doesn't step up. The bench is also going to have to step up for the Sixers, especially when they're playing a Boston. The Celtics have a deep bench, and they like to shoot the threes. Now, the Sixers have always had a tough time defending the threes, and they're going to have to get better at that, because no matter who they play in the playoffs, be it Boston, if they get by Boston, they play Milwaukee, they're going to run into teams who are not only deep, but can shoot 3-pointers. So, if anything, and that may be the Sixers' downfall, because they're inconsistent when they shoot the threes, and they're just not a good team defending 3-point shot. So, could they beat Boston? Yes. Will they beat Boston? I don't think so. I think Boston is on a mission this year. I think Boston, since they made the finals last year and they lost to Golden State, I think Boston is motivated to at least get to the finals of the East. Now, if they take on Milwaukee, that's going to be a great series, because I know Milwaukee is loaded, and they didn't like being upset by Boston last year. But this year, Milwaukee is going to have the home court advantage. So that would be a very interesting series to see again. So the Sixers have a lot of work to do. And let's never forget Doc Rivers. he is the wild card in this whole thing because other than 1 year when he won the championship with a veteran-laden squad in Boston, Doc Rivers doesn't do very well in the playoffs. In fact, he's blown a record number of 3-1 leads in the playoffs. So it's not even an assurance if the Sixers get up 3-1 in the playoffs that they're going to win that series. Rivers has this bugaboo that he has to get over. He has to get over the hump. He has to coach well in the playoffs. He has to, his substitutions worry me, and his rotations worry me. And I think he needs to limit them. He has to have more or less a 7 or 8 man bench rather than play his 10, 11 players a game. He's got to use them the right way. I mean, I know Joel Embiid needs his rest, but he is going to be the MVP. Not too many teams can handle him, and he needs to be on the floor. So Doc Rivers is the one who is going to need to space out his minutes wisely. And let's see how Rivers does. This may be a big year for him, a big postseason, because he may not come back next year. If the Sixers fail to get out of the second round again, I wouldn't be surprised if just the Sixers organization looks to make a change. Let's see what happens. So it's going to be a big off season for a lot of the Sixers players, coaches, management. I mean, think about James Harden. He has a player option at the end of the year. He could walk if he wants to. He could go back to Houston. He could be a free agent. And he's had a solid year. I have to give him credit. It's not the James Harden we used to know, but he has adapted his game to be more of a point guard. Yes, he still makes too many turnovers. Yes, he's an inconsistent shooter. But yes, he's also had a solid year. So let's give James Harden credit. Would I sign him to a long-term extension? No. Not with his age, not with his injury history, but I think the Sixers will. I think they will extend him at least 2 years because, number one, James Harden and the Sixers GM, Daryl Morey, have a bond together, if you want to call it that. And I also think that the Sixers have sort of painted themselves into a corner where what other options do they have? You know, what the Sixers really need on the team is a young point guard. That's what they need. Someone who's going to run the show so that Maxey could play the off guard, the shooting guard, get the ball into Maxey's hands and let him work, let him do what Maxey does best. I just think what Maxey, when he doesn't get the ball and Harden dominates the ball with all this dribbling, that's when we see Maxey at his worst. Maxey needs the ball, but Maxey isn't that great at bringing the ball up. He still makes too many turnovers. That's why I think the Sixers need a young point guard on this team, and Maxey will burn with. So that's going to be interesting to see what they do with James Harden. So let's get through the playoffs first. I think they will sweep Brooklyn, and then let's see how they do against Boston. The final thing I wanted to talk to you about today, and in sports-wise, Philadelphia sports, are the Eagles. And the Eagles a lot of talk around the city now with the draft coming up in a few weeks about who the Eagles should pick, what the Eagles will do with their number 10 pick and number 30. Well, overall, the Eagles only have 5 draft picks this year. Next year, they have a boatload of draft picks. So they really need to hit on their picks this year. But I look at it this way. We need to look at the picks that the Eagles took last year in Jordan Davis. He's got to step up this year on the defensive line. So when we add in the picks last year, we're still they're still grooming those guys to be starters. It's almost like you're getting an influx of young starters this year. If Jordan Davis plays like he should, up to his potential, like he should get, that's almost like getting another draft pick into the mix this year. So what should they do with number 10? Well, the discussion has been, should the Eagles take a running back at number 10? Should they specifically take a Robinson in Texas at number 10? Now, Robinson looks like really an explosive weapon at number 10. Not only can he run the ball, he can catch the ball. And that's a big part of the Eagles' offense. Swinging the running backs out of the backfield, and the Eagles' running backs must be able to catch the ball for the offense to be effective. It just makes everything else flow. It opens up the when A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith spread the field, everything opens underneath in front of the linebackers. So then you could use Dallas Goedert, your tight end, and you could use the running back to catch the ball underneath. Now, before I forget, that's another thing I think the Eagles need to address this offseason, a backup tight end. Because as we saw, Dallas Goedert got hurt last year, was out several games, and the tight end position really lacked. And you could see it. It just made things a lot harder on the wide receivers. So whether it be in the draft or through free agency, I think the Eagles need to address backup tight end just in case. Getting back to the pick number 10, I'm very old school. I think the Eagles should focus on the line flag, either an offensive or defensive lineman, but the Eagles should not reach. If there is a defensive lineman or a offensive lineman who is not worthy of the number 10 pick, they shouldn't reach and take a lineman if it's not warranted. And I think Howie Roseman has gotten better at his years have gone by of not reaching. I know the Eagles were adamant about not taking linebackers, running backs in the first round. But I would say, take the best player on your board. And if that happens to be a linebacker, take it. If it's a quarterback, take it. God knows the Eagles, even though they signed Bradbury and Slay, they need help in the secondary, and another young quarterback isn't going to hurt. As far as Robinson is concerned, I can see both sides of the issue. I could see that you don't take a running back at number 10 because a running back may only last a few years, and you want your pick that high to be a pick of longevity, a pick who's going to be in the league, be on your team for over 5 years or more. And running backs just aren't used like they used to be in the NFL. But and the other argument is the Eagles, if they want a running back, should find a really good running back later in the draft. Apparently, this draft is full of good running backs. Are they running backs like Bijan Washington or Bijan Robinson? Maybe not. I don't know, but I know this kid is good. I know he would give the Eagles another weapon. I know the Eagles' offense would be terrifying to defenses when you have Jalen Hurts, the quarterback, and you have Goddard and Brown and Devontae Smith, and then you had a stud running back, a speed guy like Robinson to mix. I get all that. And I also get that the Eagles, since they had a taste of the Super Bowl, want to get back there with Kelsey coming back for another year. And who knows how many years Lane Johnson is going to be on the team. The Eagles want to win now. They want to win now. And I see that. I get that. They should try to win. But I also see the other side of the story where it may behoove them to take another player who is going to be around longer in another position. I will say I trust Howie Roseman. I know he knows what he's doing. I can't always say that in the past. He's made mistakes, just like any GM makes mistakes. But I do trust Howie, and I think he's going to do the best thing for the team. So what I do think is going to happen in the draft, which, believe it or not, is only a few weeks away, I think the Eagles are definitely going to trade down, whether it be trading their number 10 pick or trading their number 30 pick. I think the Eagles like to pick up some extra draft picks, 1 or 2 extra draft picks, so they could fill some more needs later in the draft. So I think they're definitely going to trade down to where and when. That's the question. So the debate will go on, especially on talk radio, about what the Eagles should do in a few weeks. But this is the scenario every year, isn't it? I mean, before the Eagles traded and got Carson Wentz, wasn't that the scenario? I mean, so it's nothing new, and it makes for good sports talk. And it's, but again, I think the Eagles know what they're doing, and I think when push comes to shove, they're going to take the best player on the board. So we'll see what happens. And Howie is always a surprise. I mean, look what happened last year when the Eagles traded one of their first round draft picks and got AJ Brown. That was a brilliant deal with Tennessee. Who knows if Howie will conjure up another deal like that to fill a need. We don't know. But we do know that Howie isn't afraid to make moves on draft day. So, and that's what makes Eagles interesting. That's what makes the Eagles organization a good organization, because they're not afraid to take chances like that. So all in all, it's going to be a very interesting month. April and May are probably my favorite sports months of the year. I mean, think about it. We just finished the men's NCAA tournament, the March Madness. We're in the baseball now, and soon hockey playoffs will begin, and the basketball playoffs. Oh, by the way, real quick, I think in hockey, I hate to say this, but I think the Boston Bruins are going to win the Stanley Cup. It won't be an easy road for Boston. In the Eastern Conference, they may have to go through Carolina. They may have to go through Tampa Bay. It's not going to be easy, but I think Boston they're just such a resilient, dominant team this year that I just can't see a team beating them 4 times in a series. Can you? I can. I think Boston wins the Stanley Cup, and I think Milwaukee wins the NBA championship. I think if Milwaukee can get by either the Sixers or the Celtics, I think they can handle whoever is coming out of the West. And I think Giannis is on a mission again to win another championship. And the Bucks are just very deep. And again, ask yourself, can you see a team beating the Bucks 4 times in a series? Maybe 2, maybe 3. I just can't see anyone beating them 4 times in a series. So, hello, bud. So that's my predictions. It's a great time of year though, because then you've got your side sports. You've got Kentucky Derby coming up, and you've got the Indy 500, and there's just so much going on this time of the year, So it's a great time for sports now, and September is my other favorite month of year for sports when football starts again. So, well, listen, I hope you guys have a great Easter, and I'll be back again next week. Tuesday, I have my first guest on the program, and I'll let you know who that is at the time. And that's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to having guests on the program because I'm looking forward to hearing their stories. I'm looking forward to being inspired. We draw hope from others and inspiration from others, and I'm looking forward to hearing the guests that I have lined up so far. Have very, very inspirational stories to share, and I'm very thankful and blessed that they have agreed to come on. So, so listen, you guys have a great Easter, and go Phillies today and over the weekend, and I'll talk to you again soon. I forgot the Flyers, but what can we say about the Flyers? Luckily, mercifully, they are coming to the end of their season. The Flyers just need an overhaul. They need an overhaul in the front office, and they need to start drafting more wisely and free agent wise. It's going to, the Flyers didn't get bad overnight. They're not going to get good. It's going to take time. And it really is a shame. Philadelphia was a great hockey city at one time. And the Flyers were in the mix with all the rest of our teams in the city. They have a great tradition. But the last few years, they've just, people who own the Flyers, Comcast, have been lacking. And the people they put in place to run the Flyers have been lacking. And it shows now. And hopefully, as a Flyers fan, the Flyers will be relevant again soon. That's all we can hope for. I mean, I hate to see teams like the Bruins and the Islanders and the Rangers and the Devils are all in the playoffs, all vying for a Stanley Cup. And the Flyers aren't back. So let's get the Flyers back. And it starts at the top. It starts with the Comcast, and it starts putting the right people in place. So the Flyers can come back to life. So you guys have a great Easter, great holiday. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to the broadcast. In a few days, my website will be up, gregoryjsmithauthor.com. Please check that out. When it is up, I'll let you know. It's got all kinds of good stuff in there. it's a beautiful website. They did a great job with it. So I'll talk to you next week. We'll have more broadcasts of Unbreakable Spirits next week. And hey, maybe even Katie DeGray will make a special appearance. So take care for now. Thanks for watching. Where is the offer? Oh, oops. Sorry, folks. I'm still learning. There it is. See you guys later. Take care.